Hello. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you hear me when I speak?
Yeah, you're muted. No, you want them to hear you?
This is going to be for when Jake
Tennis. I can hear myself.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can see you. So put on you're on a big screen so everyone can see you.
Oh, I just started to hear you. Hold on a second.
No. Technology.
Yeah,
lovely.
at the very bottom.
There you are.
There I am. Hello.
Big screen. I should take a picture so you can see it. My phone's all turned to me. My screen's always turned around. So tennis is also one of my board of directors.
Right now,
Somebody else or something else that I antique.
Okay. Yes.
Testing. Oh, everyone can hear me okay? Wonderful. I think you guys might hear me better on this side. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Shaheen Dashkin. I'm the manager of client events at the Pickering Public Library. Before we start, I wanted to do a land acknowledgement and then hand it over to our host. Okay. The Pickering Public Library acknowledges the city of Pickering resides on land within the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation and Williams Treaty signatories of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations. Pickering is also home to many Indigenous persons and communities who represent other diverse, distinct, and autonomous Indigenous nations. This acknowledgement reminds us of our responsibility to our relationships with the First Peoples of Canada and to the ancestral lands on which we learn, share, work, and live. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce your host for this evening, Carion Fenn.
Thank you, Shaheen. We're truly honored to partner with the Pickering Public Library to start this initiative. This forum this is our 8th year of doing it. So on behalf of the Carion Fenn Foundation Board of Directors, thank you guys for joining in person, online, and on social media. So our 8th annual Alex Monaghan Mental Health Forum. So we've rebranded our mental health programming, and we've joined forces with Mayor Kevin Ash and his lovely wife, Ms. Karen O'Brien, to run our mental health programming, putting a face to mental health, Alex Monaghan, and working in the city of Pickering in terms of mental health. Too many people are impacted, and we need to help in regards to removing the stigma so that we can normalize mental health and allow us to have a conversation so that we are all comfortable with seeking support, talking to our neighbors, talking to our friends. So we're honored and happy to be able to partner with the Pickering Public Library as we move forward. Thank you. We have a great lineup. Jay Farr is with us. He is a psychotherapist. Tanis Russell is a registered nurse. She's fully online. She's also one of our board of directors for the Carion Fenn Foundation. And we have Dr. Ian Horseman, who's from the Brain Therapy Clinic. He's actually a teaching doctor, so he actually also teaches doctors how to do physiotherapy, and he also speaks around the world. He is well educated, well informed, well knowledgeable, and he'll be joining us online as well.
So, welcome. I have something I would like to read to you before we start the program. We tragically lost my son, Alex, to suicide on April 1st, 2018. Alex was 27. He was an electrician with a job he loved and excelled at. He was engaged to a lovely girl. He had siblings who adored him, parents who loved and supported him, lots of friends, and the apple of his eye was his niece, Jameson. Only 2.5 when Alex died. They managed to create many memories and a bond that was pretty special. He was funny, charming, and smart. To the outside world, Alex was leading a perfect life. But Alex had struggled with depression periodically for years. He also struggled with substance abuse, which we have learned often goes hand in hand with depression. He had some counseling over the years, was treated by our family doctor with medication when it was warranted, but he was a master at hiding his symptoms and his pain. Alex always had a smile on his face. We know now that it was a mask. On Valentine's Day, 2018, Alex's fiance called me and told me Alex was in a bad place. He couldn't stop crying. She had never seen him like that. We immediately got him to the Ajax Pickering emergency. I had never seen my big, strong boy like that. He was sobbing and could not articulate why. And it broke my heart to not be able to fix him. He was seen by a physician, given some medication, and told to either follow up with the crisis team the next day, or if he preferred, his family physician, which he did. He was prescribed medication, started to see a therapist, and while he wasn't his usual happy self, he seemed to rally. By Easter, he was dead. There was no question about how we as a family would navigate this uncharted waters. We were going to be honest about how Alex died. We owed it to him to be his voice. That day, we carefully crafted a message for social media to let people know that we had lost Alex to suicide. That depression had stolen another one of our young men. We also decided as a family that we would do everything we could to ensure that Alex's death would not be in vain. That his story was not over. So even though unimaginable pain and grief, we took every opportunity we could to talk about suicide and depression. Karen O'Brien, mother and wife of City of Pickering Mayor Kevin Ash. This is why we do what we're doing. Karen O'Brien, Mayor Kevin Ash, and I, my team, we share the same passion about mental health. Remember, I spoke to Mayor Ash and said we were going to work together and put a program with Alex's name because we knew he understood what it was like. Then I interviewed his wife. We cried through the whole filming of Health 180 with Carion Fenn and Rogers. And we said if we can save one life, then it's worth it. I always tell people, when sometimes you get the stigma, I'm not impacted. So I always say, do you pay bills? They say yes. So if you're not stressed paying your bills, please take my bills and pay for me. Right? But we're all impacted. And that's why it's important for us to have these conversations, to openly listen. If I might not be able to reach my family, and you might be able to. So if you can reach someone else, please do, because it's so important. That's why we're here today. I'm glad to see you guys here. Jake and everyone, thank you. And I look forward to the evening, spending this evening with you guys. Tanis, are you there? So our first speaker for this evening is Tanis Russell. And I'm doing my best not to call her, she had a name change, a last name change. So I'm doing my best not to call her the other name.
Thank you.
I got that right. So Tanis is a clinical practice leader and an experienced registered nurse skilled in critical care and emergency medicine. Tanis is passionate about development of health policy initiative, facilitating nursing education for nurses at every stage of their career. Tanis values education and appreciates its impact on nursing and its influence on patient care outcome. Tanis has experience in identifying, planning, implementing, and evaluating education and strategies. Influences nursing practice. She is a dedicated board of director with the Carion Fenn Foundation, the chair for Durham Block Network. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanis Russell.
Thank you. But a beautiful welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I can go ahead and share my screen. Oh, share is not turned on there, Carion. Is there a way to fix that?
One moment, please.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Tanis. She gave us a shirt.
We've been able to.
Do the multiple participants under share.
So, go up right there. Yep.
Okay. So I'm guessing the full screen is there. So thank you for that warm welcome, and hi everybody. So today I'm going to be discussing stress, in particular exploring the physical impacts of such. And so welcome to our stress-free space, even if it's for the next 25 minutes. Today we're exploring the world of stress, and we're just going to learn a little bit more about it and how to deal with it in a kind and understanding way. So first, I'm just going to ask everybody, including me, to just start by taking a deep breath before we get into the session. Okay, so follow me. So who am I? So my name is Tanis, and I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for the last 14 years. I received my undergrad degree in nursing from the University of New Brunswick, and I received my graduate degree in leadership in education and health policy from Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson. I specialize in emergency and critical care nursing, which has been a constant passion of mine. I've also held various leadership roles as a nurse educator, both within acute care hospitals and in academia at the Bachelor of Nursing level. I currently work as a clinical specialist slash consultant for the Alberta government, focusing on policy building for the acute care throughout the province. So now that we have all of the formalities out of the way, today let's discuss stress and what it is. So I took to Google to get the definition, which varies depending on the dictionary, which is quite interesting. Here were the top 5 results, and my personal favorite was the Urban Dictionary, which the definition was unpleasant byproduct of life in modern society. So that's the definition of stress according to the Urban Dictionary. Some of the noteworthy ones is by the Britannica, something that causes strong feelings or worry or anxiety. Another one that stuck out for me is overwhelming pressure experienced by someone or something as a result of some adverse force or influence. And this other one here, the deformation caused in a body by such a force. And I know, it depends on the context in which we're speaking about stress, but to be honest, they all really do tie into the stress that we're going to be speaking about today, which is the emotional, physical aspect of stress that we endure in our day-to-day lives. The one thing that I noticed is how uncomfortable stress is just based on these various definitions. And what stands out to me is that with stress, there's an impact, and that impact is usually on the body. So that's what we're going to be talking more about. So in the book, Breaking the Stress Cycle, which is a book written by Andrew Bernstein, he talks about stress and how to break the stress cycle. It's a really great book. In his book, he used the American Heritage Dictionary definition of stress, which is what you see here. And he agrees that the first part and the latter are accurate depictions of stress. So the first part being that stress is a mentally or emotionally disruptive condition, and the latter that there are physical effects such as the ones listed here: increased heart rate, a rise in your blood pressure, muscular tension, irritability, and depression. In fact, the CDC estimates that 75 to 90% of medical visits are stress-related. And from a mental health perspective, 1 in 5 Canadians will experience a mental health crisis or be diagnosed with a mental illness. By the age of 40, that ratio increases to 1 in every 2 Canadians. So, and why, you may ask? It's due to stress. So if we dive a little bit deeper into the history of stress, it was a Canadian-Hungarian gentleman named Hans Seeley who introduced the concept of stress to the medical world and its impact on our physical health. He is also known as the doctor of stress research. He's written over 30 books on the topic and has published approximately 1,700 papers speaking about stress and its association with psychiatry, aging, cancer, and disease. He's best known for saying only the dead have no stress, so I guess that might be something to look forward to, but probably not. His definition of stress is simply the non-specific response of the body to any demand placed upon it. So what does he mean exactly when he says non-specific? Because you would think it is specific. If you sit in a sauna, you sweat. If you were to go outside in the cold, you would shiver. So these are what Hans would classify as specific responses, as they correlate with the conditions that are being experienced. Yet, he also considered the physiological responses beneath the specific responses to be non-specific. So in other words, the internal responses that took place when the person, when that person was under demand. So this demand in our modern day could be something like challenges at work or in a relationship or concerns about finances, etc. They tend to trigger the same triad of poor adaptation, which is what stress in essence is. It's a physical reaction to any great change that we experience. So he deemed this to be very inevitable in life, like there's no way to avoid that. So I, like Andrew, who was the author of the book, Breaking the Cycle, agree with Han's theory and would probably take it a step further by viewing stress not as a physical process with a psychological component, but a psychological process with a physical component. And it's not about what's going on in your life that causes stress, but your thoughts around what's going on in your life that causes stress. Actions that then follow. So nothing can stress you if you don't give it the power to. Sounds easy enough in theory, but we all know it's not that easy in reality, right? And stress is a function of beliefs and not circumstances. So that's the current theory that's out there with regards to stress. So just a little quick activity. If you just, maybe close your eyes, or you can just sit there quietly and just think of a time, or can you remember a time when you felt really stressed out, like probably the most stressed you felt today? And what exactly was happening, and how did that make you feel? Because very often when we're experiencing stress, there's a feeling that comes with that. So if you can just take maybe 5 seconds or so and just think of a time you're really stressed and what that felt like for you. So something else to consider is it the situation that is causing you stress, or is it your thoughts about the situation that is causing you stress? And those are two very different things that often get kind of melded in together. So that's something to consider the next time you're feeling stressed. Is it the situation that's causing you stress, or is it the thoughts about the situation? And then we're going to talk more about what you can do about that. So emotions that are commonly associated with stress are anxiety, frustration, anger, jealousy, heartache, sadness, fear, worry, resentment, regret, shame, and a slew of other negative emotions. Emotions like these tend to make us less productive, they make us less creative, it impacts our ability to concentrate, and even our ability to communicate effectively. So in essence, it's demotivating to us. So to cope with these, yeah?
Can you hear me? Can you put your screen in presentation mode? It's in desktop mode.
Oh, it was in presentation mode.
Yeah, it switched by accident, I think. Yeah, we're seeing desktop mode.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Is it not shared?
Oh, wait.
It's shared.
Dr. Horstman, are you sharing your screen? Maybe they both share at the same time. Dr. Horstman?
That's stressful.
Can you stop sharing?
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, I can see Dr. Horstman's screen.
Oh, that's what's
I don't think she's shared.
I can see his screen, but we can't see yours. You both can't share at the same time.
If you share your screen again, it'll take over his screen.
Try
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, gotcha. Am I back up?
Yes, we're back up. Thank you.
Thank you there.
Teamwork, good.
Okay. So these emotions can be quite demotivating. So to cope with these negative emotions, many people resort to whether it's eating junky food, smoking, drinking, isolating themselves, impulsive behaviors, or even fighting with other people, right? So Andrew Bernstein says it best when he says, stress may start in your head, but the effects on your body, your feelings, and your behavior are all very real, right? So emotional control is one of the things that we would want to try to regulate when possible. So as sticking with the focus, there are various ways in which stress impacts us physically. It could be high blood pressure, heart disease, GI issues, which would be like your stomach problems, headaches, back and neck pain, and these are all ways in which stress tends to manifest itself within our bodies. Additionally, some people experience fatigue, poor immunity, so constantly getting sick, or just an overall decline in health. But let's not forget that stress is a psychological process with a physical component. So it's not what is going on in your life that causes stress, but your thoughts around what's going on in your life that causes stress. So in essence, the psychological impact is creating the physical impact. In a recent survey, 38% of Canadians actually say that they felt mentally stressed to the point that it impacted their day-to-day life. And 58% said that they think about their mental health very often. About half reported being able to go to work as a result of feeling stressed. And this is probably due to what some of you can see here in this illustration. Experiencing insomnia and low levels of energy and just having difficulties concentrating. If I was experiencing that, I wouldn't want to go to work either. So I do want to share something with you. It's a little secret that I have that I figured, you know what, this is a good platform to share on. So I'm going to take a little time right now to talk about myself because this that you see right here was actually me at one point in time. So from about 2017 to about 2024, early 2024, this was me. I can honestly say that. So how did it start? How did this become me? Well, number one, I was working in a very challenging role in addition to being in a relationship that was really not good for me. My stress first revealed itself as insomnia, which we can see here, right? Insomnia, low levels of energy. And I didn't want to go to work. But of course, I can only not go to work for so long, so that wasn't quite the best solution, right? So from feeling this insomnia and this deep desire to not want to go to work, I then transitioned to gradually gaining weight and having poor concentration and even having panic attacks, which was something I'd never experienced before. So it was extremely horrifying when it happened. And as time went on, I was diagnosed with major anxiety and major depressive episodes that would continue on for a few years. My complete being was just like dysregulated, and I just felt very lost. I was full of inflammation. I woke up daily with full pain in my body, and eventually I had to rely on assistive devices to help me sit on a toilet or open jars or simply to pick something up off the floor. And at one point in time, I was walking with pain and needed help to get to stand up when I would sit down. So it was really debilitating, and I had no clue what was happening to me, and I definitely didn't think it had anything to do with being stressed. I went to the doctors who referred me to a specialist, and then after a bunch of tests, they told me that I had a condition called fibromyalgia. And fibromyalgia is a disorder that causes widespread pain, mainly as musculoskeletal, so within the muscles, and it's accompanied by feeling tired, having sleep issues, or even having mood issues, which I experienced all of those. So with fibromyalgia, the symptoms commonly begin after you experience physical trauma or an infection, but it can even happen if you experience significant psychological stress, which was me. So remember when I told you about the challenging job that I had? So I wasn't coping well with that job at all. And yes, that's pretty much what got things going, but the relationship that was also no good for me, that kept everything in play and made everything a lot more worse. So after a couple of years of being medicated on anti-inflammatory medication, anti-anxiety medication, and antidepressants, and watching my quality of life literally slip between my fingers, I knew that I had to do something, and I knew that somehow I had to find a way to take my power back. So how I did it, or what I did, was I started working with a therapist who helped me to shift my perspective on my life and the way I processed my thoughts. So in essence, she helped to change my thinking about how I saw my situation and how I processed my thoughts around that situation. I found the courage to leave the job and eventually to also leave the relationship. And with that, I regained myself, I regained my mind, and I regained my body. The fibromyalgia that I was diagnosed with back in 2020, that is no more. I'm no longer in any pain. I'm no longer on any medications. I no longer need to use anything to help me. I actually work out several times a week. I'm running on treadmills, I'm lifting very heavy weights, and I've lost pretty much almost all the weight that I've gained over that time frame. My diet is balanced, I sleep 8 hours a night, sometimes more, without interruption, and I wake up feeling refreshed and renewed every day. I'm happier, I'm content, I'm no longer isolating myself, I'm no longer having panic attacks, and personally, I think I look 10 years younger. That's just me. So simply put, I'm back to being myself. But I want to always remind everybody that stress is a psychological process with a physical component. So it's not about what's going on in your life that causes the stress, but your thoughts. And it was healing my own thoughts that helped me heal myself. So what were my thoughts about my job? It was the fact that I didn't like my job. Or let me rephrase, I loved my job, I just didn't like the people who I was working with. I felt stuck and I felt unsure as to how to maneuver. And I told myself pretty much every day, just suck it up, which over time made matters worse. And even though I eventually left the job, I was still in that relationship that wasn't healthy. And my thoughts about that were pretty much the same. I felt very stuck, I felt very powerless, and I felt like I was on the seesaw of emotions every day trying to pour into this relationship from a very empty cup. And I like to call it a gift that kept on giving, only it wasn't a gift. But it definitely kept on giving me more stress until I finally changed my mindset and left the situation. And I'm sure if I had continued to stay in that situation, I probably would have died a very early death. So what now? Now that we know more about stress and the physical and mental impacts of it, what now? So let's talk about various ways in which you can start to manage stress, if this is you or you know somebody. So since stress is a matter of perception, it is beneficial to work on the way you view things and process your thoughts. So while we're in control of some things in life, there are many things that we have absolutely no control over. So what we have to learn to do is reframe the way we look at a stressful situation as a healthy first start. So my top recommendation would be to speak with someone who can help you to gain insight into your situation. So this can be a doctor, it could also be a trusted family member or friend. And if you require additional support or finances allow, consider talking to a therapist. Therapists and counselors and support groups provide the necessary tools and strategies for managing stress and addressing the underlying issues. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT, which is known to be an effective method in helping people develop healthier thought patterns and coping mechanisms as well. Another option would be participation in activities and relaxation techniques. They're very useful because when we partake, especially in physical activity, we release an enzyme called endorphins, which actually helps to elevate our mood. This can also include engaging in a beloved hobby. So for me, I took up skating again. I grew up being a figure skater. It was something I'd stopped doing for a while, so I started skating again. I also started skiing. I started going to karaoke with my friends, which is a passion of mine, and I started painting as well. Those activities were all very helpful for me. Participating in a physical activity has other numerous benefits beyond managing your stress. Another option would be yoga, meditation, prayer, breathing exercises. These are shown to help lower your blood pressure as well and reduce anxiety. There's also visualization techniques to form positive mental images. And one of the other things that I mentioned previous was getting enough sleep. It took a little bit of time for me to develop that and make that a healthy, common part of my life. But once I mastered that, I wake up feeling fantastic every day. So doing something that you enjoy, so that could be listening to a podcast, listening to music, going for a walk, or just surrounding yourself with supportive friends and family. It's very important. Just remember that stress is a part of life. It's going to happen. The goal for you is to take control on how it impacts you and not have the stress control you. So in this increasingly fast-paced and demanding world, it's really important that we manage our well-being, especially in the face of stress. It's important to prioritize not just our physical health, but also our mental health as well, and try to seek that balance in how we live our day-to-day lives. Recognizing the signs of stress and understanding its impact is the first step towards taking control of our health and our overall well-being. So I hope this presentation, because I know my time is just about to run out, has been insightful. And if you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask.
Does anybody have any questions?
I had one, I forgot.
You forgot?
Yeah, I forgot.
Okay, why don't we go to Melanie?
Yeah, actually, what I do my meditation is when I'm stressed, I use like a fabric to calm down, or I also use a weight blanket. Does that help, using a weight blanket and is that like sensory tools, because I use it a lot?
Can you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear. And I've heard wonderful things about the weighted blanket. I personally have never used one, but I'm in contact with quite a few people who are singing the praises of the weighted blanket in terms of helping them to sleep longer and more deeply. So that would be a definite benefit to helping to manage stress and cope and just wake up feeling revitalized. So I think that's wonderful.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions for Tanis? So Tanis,
Yes.
One of the things that we often don't realize, because stress can go from being an emotional situation to translate into something that is physical in terms of conditions such as, give you an example. Like someone can test positive for low blood flow to the bottom of the heart as a result of being under so much stress. It could actually lead to other medical conditions. But sometimes we don't know how to identify. Is there anything that we can see or know that can allow us to be able to tell if stress is impacting us in terms of physically? Is there any tips or tricks or anything like that you can give to us that could help us understand
Sure. So in nursing school, one of the things that they always used to tell us is that the patient is the expert on their health, right? So you know yourself best. Nobody can tell you anything about what's happening with you. So it's important to listen to your bodies, and when you're not feeling good, really get in tuned with that and try to uncover, okay, what exactly is it that doesn't feel good, and really be honest about what's happening around you on a day to day. What types of foods are you consuming? What types of people are you around? How are you feeling within your body? And if anything feels off, I always say it doesn't hurt to take a visit to your family physician and have these types of conversations where it's, whether this is happening or that's happening, or I've been feeling like this lately. A lot of the time, some of those small things could actually reveal very big things. But I would say really listen to your body, become in tune with yourself, and when things don't feel right, definitely seek somebody within the medical profession.
Thank you. Any other question for Tanis in regards to your physical health, the effect of stress on your physical health?
Yeah. And always remember that the physical is caused by the psychological, right? So we've got to make sure that the mind is right, and that will help with the physical.
I'm realizing too, I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm realizing that certain individuals are being diagnosed, or their conditions are being triggered more, or more people are being diagnosed. For instance, I know of someone who was in a stressful situation. The person's loved one died from cancer, and shortly after that, the person's never been the same in terms of dealing with the passing of her daughter at such a young age from cancer. And then shortly after that, the person was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and then it just went into a rapid stage. But I'm also noticing, like, other people are saying, my family member has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And then, for instance, the rapid pace, but also hearing of stress that's involved in that person's life. So we have to wonder too, and I think we need to have more research and medical information to see how much of a role stress is playing in these things. Because it's hard to see someone you love like just go from being stressed, and then a roller coaster of all these different things that are happening, right? So
Yeah, and there's definitely a connection. I don't have any stats or anything to really point to right now, but there is, but we do recognize that stress does impact the gut, and there is a very strong connection between the gut and the mind. So there's something to be said about experience, to be having cognitive issues as a result of, being in a stressed state, especially if it's a chronic stress state. So I would say there's definitely a correlation. I don't know if in all cases, but in many, between the mind, the gut, the stress, the emotions of it all. So that's why it's important to if you heal one, it'll kind of start to trickle down and heal everything. When I was going through my stressful situation, I wasn't digesting my food very well. Definitely, and I didn't even notice it until now. I notice it. I can see what the difference was, but before I was not digesting my food very well, and I can say that I was in a fog a lot of the times, and that my concentration definitely suffered as a result, right? So it's all interconnected, just who we are as humans.
And thank you for sharing that, because too often you don't hear like experts speak about their own personal experiences, because it helps us that are faced with these barriers to know, hey, if it happened to you, you know, it's okay.
Mhm.
Well, it's okay to go through these stuff. I'm not a mental health expert. I'll call in Jake for that in a minute. Right? But too often we beat ourselves up when we're going through these things, and it's important. You know, when we see individuals like yourself who are experts, you share your experience, it helps us in regards to knowing that, you know what, we are not alone in the things that we are experiencing. We
Mhm.
have a question in the audience here. What is your question?
Okay, so a few years back, I got an inheritance, and
Mhm.
everybody like just pounded on me until it was all gone.
Mhm.
I did an investment, they pound on me as well. I'm on disability now, they're still pounding on me because they want it. I don't have that support, like, because it's family and friends, so how do I cope with that? I don't have all my friends that I used to have, they're all gone, it's just me by myself. Like, I depend on God, but God is invisible, so
Yes.
I don't really have any support system, it's just me, like, in this sea of emotions all by myself. How do I do that?
You do that. Okay. So I think there's two components to this. Do you have something to share, Tanis, or should I tap this to Jake?
I would just say, because I also went through a period where I didn't really have a lot of strong family support or friend support. And what I did was I kind of cultivated, I found a support group at the time, and that was my support. There are some free resources. I'm not familiar with the area you're in and what that would be. Maybe that's something Carion could look into after. I'm not sure, but for myself, I just found support groups with people who can understand pretty much what I was going through, and I find there's a lot of support groups out there that help with different things. So maybe that's something that you can also look into
Okay.
if you feel like you need more support.
Partner with the support groups?
Yes.
But go ahead,
We
Karen.
can
Sorry.
talk afterwards. I am going to tap this over to Jake.
This?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you have faith in God. I mean, is there, church group that you can belong, something that you have connection with, that, maybe it's not like particularly about yours, but maybe there's a sewing club or a crochet club or whatever, a social club that you can find a similar faith background, and then also can just be supportive of you as a human being. Yeah, that might be a neat way to find it.
These classes are these workshops that the library puts on.
Mhm.
I attend a lot, so it helps me through it.
Yes.
I go to they have crazy events, and I find arts and crafts.
Yes.
So I try my best to just focus on that. So
Yes.
that's what I'm doing, but it's still hard just doing it by
Yes.
myself.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you would like to seek out, like some support from like a counselor type person, our community health center has,
Okay.
OHIP covered support that they can offer you, and
Okay.
they only have a wait list. I mean, I know it's not only, but about maybe 3 months, which is
Okay.
not long
Uh-huh.
in comparison to what we were. And they have its OHIP covered, so there's no
Okay.
fee for you. So
Okay,
it's
thank
right
you.
here in Pickering.
Thank you. I did not know that.
So,
So thank you.
Miss, I just want to, sorry, I'm calling you Miss. Miss Blitz, sorry, someone's name is Miss. It's not like I was calling you Miss. I'm getting to that age where I'm sensitive about people calling me Miss. Just call me Carion. So Miss Blitz online on TikTok said that I can relate to that after my dad passed away and the money ran out, everyone disappeared. And also support groups 100%. Durham has a lot of generalized women's group. Definitely check them out.
Okay.
So that was Miss Blitz
Thank you.
on TikTok that
Thank you.
posted that for you. Thanks to social media, you connect in many different ways. But that's you brought up something important there, because I don't know who did their wills or not, but that was one of my scariest thing in regards if something were to happen to me. I have 2 boys, one's older and one is not. One is under what is now 15. I was saying he's 13 last week. But one of the things that I put in my will is that he doesn't, if something were to happen to me, God forbid, he did not have access to his inheritance, which is 50% of what my self-worth, until he's 18.
And there's certain things, because sometimes you have people that would flock you because they want your money, right? Or like my house couldn't be sold until he is of 19 years old. So sometimes family member too, when you're doing these things, you have to think about, long term. And it's not because of his brother. I just want to be clear. His brother is my power of attorney right away at this moment, so he can make decisions for me at any time. But these are things that we need to consider as well, because sometimes you would have people come towards you because they know they can get something from you, right? And once that money is gone, then they leave you without thinking of how that would impact you emotionally, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's, and we can talk afterwards as well, but you can always reach out to the foundation. We can try to see how we can connect you to other resources that are available, right? But I'm glad you brought it up. Any other question? Okay, hearing none. Tanis, thank you very much for your presentation and for answering our questions. Greatly appreciated. Great job.
Thank you for having me.
Next, our next topic will be the stress on the body and the brain, mental health. And I brought in Pickering's own, I like to bug him when I say that, Jake Farr. Jake focuses based on personal-centered mental health support. He works with each person's support to help them live the life they would like by working through their individual barriers, lived experiences, any other challenges that are placed in front of them by society. He's currently the chair of the Canadian Medical Association Patient Voice team, which supports the CMA around patient care and policies. He's one of the most humane person that I know in terms of caring, empathy, respect, love, and all the above. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, Jake Farr.
Great. My name's going to get there.
Yes. I get to do it, you gotta do it too.
Oh boy, now they made it tricky to get around. On that one. All right, here we go. So, yes, thank you for those who are here or you're online. My space around stress and emotional and mental health is obviously related to my work. I'm a counselor in the private field, but I'm also an advocate. And advocacy right in itself can be very stressful. I know there's some folks here in the room that are big advocates in the community, and I can understand that stress. So the things that, like, I was just going to bring up, our previous speaker brought a lot of things up that I was going to speak about, but I can speak from a different space. Stress is, we talk about stress always as negative. And it does have a negative connotation, but we have it every day, right? What to wear to work, what not to wear to work, whether we go to work, whether we're going to go outside today, whatever that is. We have those stresses. It's when they become ongoing and we don't know how to manage them, is that's when it becomes that long-term stress, which then starts to play an impact on us. So we think about, people say, well, where do we get stress from, right? Lots of places. So from my space, it's all internalized. It's how we manage what we are given, right? Can come from work, and sometimes it can come from a positive thing. Sometimes people get promotions at work, which causes them stress. So you think promotion, positive, but now it adds more stress to them because they have bigger job roles, they have more responsibilities being put on them. Other things can be, it can be almost like around what Carion talked about with Alex, is that they are seen as someone who's super happy, everything's going well for them, but internally it's not. And they must keep up that, facade, and that actually becomes their stressor. And so when we think about stress, we often forget to think about those things that others will see as positive are actually a stressor for someone else. So sometimes our homes are unsafe. School can be a stressor. Finances, I think everybody can feel those things. Relationships, or lack thereof relationships. So when we talk about folks that don't have support. The sandwich generation, for any of you that understand what that is when someone, I'm going to say me, I have older parents who require significant support, and I also have younger people who are at home still. And those can be very big stressors for people. We talk about chronic health challenges. So we talked about how stress actually can cause health challenges, but for sometimes we have health challenges come up that are not stress related, but they can cause stress on us. And then again, all the things that we talked about. So we talked about, in my world, social location. And for social location, that means it's about race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, ability, disability, age, your socioeconomic standards, status, your primary language, your immigration status, and your religion. And these are all things that can cause stressors in your life, and we often don't think about those. So for me as a person from where I stand, I have some of those stressors that are given to me every day. How I handle them is where my stress level comes in, which is just what we were talking about. Your stress is based on how you manage incoming information, right? So when we see, and where would you see increased stress levels, right? When you have limited support. People who have limited support. So thinking about people who are aging. We lose our friends, we have very limited support from family. This can increase your stress level. Multiple stressors, whether you have not just one but many. Things like around, some folks have a propensity to have higher stress levels because they either, the way that their brain fires, that they have emotional balancing challenges, or coping mechanisms. They don't have understanding of those. And then again, we have to look at things like that. So the fear is, when we have stress, it's because we feel powerless. We feel hopeless. We feel that we have no control. And part of that is true, because we truly, as the last speaker said, we have no control. We don't have control over what happens to us. What we do have control is how we receive it and how we manage it. We often feel that we're going to control the situation, and you will see that with people who are under high stress. They start to want to control everything. People will call them control freaks, or they'll call them type A personalities, all these types of things. And this is around trying to control things that we cannot control. We do not control what happens to us. What we do is we manage those things that come to us, and we manage them by dealing with them and navigating them at a time. So what we see for long-term stress, right? We have anxiety and depression, which I think we can see that many people are getting diagnosed with anxiety and depression at a much higher rate than we used to. Does that mean there wasn't anxiety and depression prior to 2020? No, that means that people are starting to come forward and be like, I need help, which is positive. Because for many people, coming forward is a stressor, right? Thinking about our social location. What we're seeing is a lot more substance misuse these days. And that means, I say misuse, because not everybody is an addict, not everybody gets addicted, but we overuse. Now, substance misuse does not just mean alcohol, does not just mean cannabis, does not mean any other drugs. It can be caffeine. It can mean sweets, sugar. It can mean many things. So substances are not always just what people think of alcohol and drugs. Sleep disruptions, body pain, all those types of things are back. So what do? What do we see? Cognitively, it means what we can actually think about. We have difficulty concentrating. I think we see this, and I don't want to always bring up COVID, but COVID really brought forward a lot of these things. And we had a whole generation of young people that didn't know how to cope, because for some of us who are a little bit older, we understood pre-COVID, we understood what was happening, and we could manage it. For those younger folks, they went through a space and time that they didn't understand why they were being separated from people, why they were being held from school, all those types of things. And we saw the long-term, we're starting to see this long-term effect now. Other things you might notice is that for people who are going through this, nothing's really fun or funny. They may have happy moments, but overall their mood is pretty steady, right? And so those are the things that we start to see, the signs of stress. Now, again, people can cover that up immensely, as we heard about Alex, right? So emotionally, you're going to see things like irritability and feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. And that is one of the things I really work on when I'm helping people, is what is it that you can look forward to? Because when we don't think we have anything to look forward to, that's when we allow stress to keep coming in. So behaviorally, you're going to see things like changing in your eating and sleeping. Some people eat more, some people eat less. Some people sleep tons, some people sleep none. Social withdrawal. People start to withdraw, and this is what happened during the COVID part, is that people, we were forced to withdraw, and now it's really hard to go back, because we've learned that. It's a new learned thing. Increased habits around the release of pressure. So oftentimes folks, how people relieve stress, whether it's great by using something like a weighted blanket, but there's also other things, nail biting, tapping of feet, teeth grinding. Maybe some of you have gone to the dentist over the last while and you're like, oh, you're grinding your teeth a lot. We're seeing a lot more folks having to get those things for their mouths. And self-harm, right? We see an increased amount of self-harm in youth right now. And just so you know, self-harm is not a predicament or not a precursor to someone doing anything worse. It is a release. It's an endorphin release. Thinking about if anybody's had a tattoo, it really hurts, but afterwards it kind of feels kind of good, and you're thinking, when can I do the next one? It's because our bodies release certain chemicals that feel good, right? So self-harm is up, but it is a way to release that pressure. Again, substance use and neglect. It's kind of like that whole thing of like, I don't feel like doing it. I should go mow the grass, but I don't want to do that. I don't feel like it. Some of you may ever think like doom scrolling, right? Over media, right? And that's not because we're like lazy. It's not about people being lazy. It's about we are avoiding having to do something because we just don't feel like it. Our minds are overworked, overstressed. Today's society, again, I see the ton of stress, and we talk about that being in control. I work with a lot of folks in the tech business, all those types of things, and they are expected by work to be online anytime that the boss needs it. 2 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, I'm a big advocate. It's like, if you've been hired to work X amount of hours to get paid that much, that's what you do. But that's not the way the world works. That's the way I'd like the world to work. But that's not how it works, folks. And so when we say we have, these stressors are there and we can't control them, that is it. You have to learn how to navigate them and how that works. So again, the supports are increasingly. So how's that? Your friends are great support, but then what are we putting on them? We have to be mindful of what we're putting on our friends, right? If we're always talking about our stress, what is their stress level about hearing your friend is stressed? So we have to be careful about that. We need to look for other support groups, and obviously, because I'm a mental health professional, it's really helpful to go. It does help because it takes the emotion out of it for folks to be able to talk about things. They don't have to worry about, Oftentimes our families can be stressors, but we don't want to talk about our family. Because why? Because we're told we don't talk bad about our family. And sometimes we need to talk about stuff and be like, oh, now I'm seeing why I'm thinking that. And then we can work through it. But if we don't allow ourselves to do that, then it becomes a stressor. So things oftentimes we talk about, well, how do we know when someone's stressed? Well, that's difficult. I think when you heard from Alex's story, he's a great masker. So some people, they can't hide that. Some people can hide this impact. So I'm thinking when we talk about people always ask me, what's a typical behavior? Like, what should I look for? Especially when we're talking around teens. Now, I'm just going to be really honest with you. If any of you have to deal with teenagers, 2, clinically, they're pretty much all can be, classified as some sort of mental health challenge because their minds aren't all, we know until you're 25 or so, your mind's not there. But our youth are different. We have to talk about what is typical. What is typical for a youth, right? If your youth starts to hide in their room all the time, is that maybe a sign? It would be a sign to look for, right? Withdrawal from society. These are things to look for. But we have to be mindful about our language. And oftentimes people will say to their loved one, I think you should go talk to somebody. And you know what that says to somebody? I think you're broken and you need to go get yourself fixed. And I'm just putting that out there because oftentimes people say that it's a very loving space. I think it would be really great if you went and talked to somebody. But what that says is, I think there's something wrong with you, I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I'd like you to go fix it. Right? And so as we're talking about that stress and things like that, there's some different ways that maybe we can help work toward it. Things like, it's from I statements. Hey, I've noticed you haven't been sleeping very well lately. Is there anything that I can help with? Right? That's saying, I've noticed a behavior, I'm concerned, is there anything I can support you with? It is different than saying, please go talk to somebody. Things like, saying things like, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing, right? Silver lining it. That takes away from someone's experience. To be able to say, you know what, I'm not sure how to manage what you're telling me, but if you need support, I'm here for you. And if we need to find something else, we can. So it's a we, it's an I, it's not like you need to go get yourself fixed. And I just want to say that because oftentimes, by the time people come and see me, they already feel bad enough. They feel they've been too much for their family, they've been too much for their spouse or their significant other, their partner, their kids, and they're coming in and saying, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, and I'm saying, no, there's not something wrong with you. There's things that you want to change in your life, and that's what we need to do. You're not broken, you just want things to change, and you don't know how to do that. And it seems to alleviate that space. They're not broken. People who have mental health are not broken, right? Society would love to tell you that, right? For anybody who identifies as a man in this room, you're told right from pretty much the get-go, you're not allowed to have mental health. You need to suck it up, buttercup, and keep on moving forward, right? It's very hard for men to come to counseling, to support, because they're told they're not allowed to from a very young age. And even then, you're normally not in a lot of male spaces that they're like, yeah, you know, I was talking to my counselor the other day, right? That's not how it rolls. And so when you talk about those external stressors, it's even stressful for them to get there because there is a place that they have to navigate beyond the social norms that they're given to say, I don't care, I'm going, I need help. I want to go get my help that I need to get to live my best life, right? So when you're looking at that and social things, you know, for me, it's often, I always say, I don't like being called a therapist because if I go to physical therapy, I'm going there because they won't fix my shoulder, they're going to fix my leg or whatever's not working. When people come and I like to be called a support person because I'm only there to listen and help guide them into their better space, right? So when I'm thinking about my job and my work with folks is that we have to be mindful of all the barriers. And I think when we're talking about mental health, people forget to talk about lived experience of the person. My lived experience is different than all of yours, and all of yours is different than mine. And there's no one way to help support people if you don't listen to their story. Because if I don't listen, or you don't listen, and you don't say, there's a lot of stuff going on in there, then we're not going to get the whole picture. I can do CBT, which is something that the speaker spoke about. There's also what we call DBT, which is about emotional regulation. But if we don't understand where that person is coming from, how do we even support them? Right? It's coming from the community that I represent, which is the queer community, or whatever you want to call the pride community. It's very difficult to find support because not everybody understands it, nor do they want to. So even as me, as a person, for me to find support, I have lots of access and lots of privilege, it's very difficult to find someone who can sit with me and live through my experiences. So that's why I say, if you ever decide to get support, please shop around. Don't take the first one available. Talk to them. Take their consultation, 15 minutes, whatever. Ask them the questions and see if they even come close to understanding your situation before you go to see them. 99% of the work that you do in counseling, right, is about the relationship that you'll have with your counselor. Because if you don't trust them, you will not share with them. They will not be able to help you move through your space, right? So if I can give you that, and if I can just give you that last little bit about, we've already talked about it, but just to say, remember that we can't control what happens to us. No matter what you think, just next time you think, I'm going to do this, and anything can change. The only thing you can do right now is in this second, you can walk out that door. That's the thing that you can control right this moment. Other than that, you don't know what's going to happen outside that door, right? So we have to look at, we can't control anything, and it's about how you contextualize it. If you want to see it as a stressor, or do you want to see this as just like, okay, this is another part of the day. And you do that every day. Every day you decide what's going to stress you out, right? I can't find this sock that matches this sock. Are you going to let that stress you out, or are you going to be like, okay, I'll wear the other color, right? There's no milk for my coffee this morning. Does it stress you out that you didn't get it yesterday and you forgot it, and like, how could you ever forget this? Or do you go, Well, either I don't drink coffee or I drink a black tea. Right? These are the things that you have to kind of consider. When you're thinking about how you're stressed, you have to consider about what's making you stressed. And then ask yourself, why is this stressing me? Right? Oftentimes it comes from society. And all I can say is, you know what? When you're thinking about stuff and you're trying to navigate change and you're trying to navigate the world in stress, is just remember whatever decision you make today is the best one you made with the information you had. It is your best decision. Tomorrow you might make a different decision because you've learned something. But today is your best decision and it's the best you can do, and you have to give yourself a hug and be like, yeah, I did a good job today. Right? So I can leave you with that. If you ever need support, like I said, Durham Community Health Centers have OHIP covered. There's massive psychology today. You can go ahead and you can look them up and get support through that way, or obviously get a hold of Carion Fenn's Foundation, and she can help with her team find some support. And that's where I'm at.
That's where you're at?
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Wow. Is there any questions? We're gonna take questions. Of course.
Melanie.
Thank you,
I know
Melanie. Melanie.
Okay, see, I'm just saying about the queer community. I volunteer and I work like for it's Durham Lights Outreach, it's Club from 7. So is it sometimes really hard when you're queer that to get mental health supports?
Yeah, it is. It is because oftentimes people don't understand the intersections of all the things that go on, nor because they don't live it, and not that you have to live it all, but sometimes that there is. I'm just going to be honest with you, and we can just see right now when your rights are being taken away from you. If you don't understand that that's happening, then it's very hard for you to manage and help me manage my emotions about it, right? So I think it's just a little bit difficult sometimes for certain groups, and I'm saying not just for the queer group, but for any minority groups, it's sometimes often very hard to find space. Yeah.
Can you address whether there is a phenomenon where you are addicted to stress? And in that component, can you talk about good stress versus what we stigmatize as stress as being a negative thing? Can you talk about good stress being a motivator?
Yeah, so stress is we deal with it, right? Sometimes our stress will make sure that we get gas in the car because we see that it's on empty and we need to it's I'm stressed, I better get to the gas station. So there's those stressors in life that we can be like, oh, this is gonna motivate me, right? People who we call addicted to stress, what it is that they don't know how to undo the stress. I'm going to specifically speak about those people who are identified as female and have been brought up as female. Societal stress on you to be the perfect person, to make sure your family's okay, to make sure everybody's okay, is significantly different than what someone who was brought up as male. And I think for a lot of female folks, that societal stress is continued from within the female space, and then from within the misogynistic space of that is what your expectation is to do, is to make everybody all right. And so we talk about that addiction, and I don't know if it's an addiction other than the fact that we don't know how to stop it. Right? We don't know, when we get in that space, I have to keep going, have to keep going, have to keep going, we do not understand it. But there also is, when we have stress, there's also some energy that goes in your body, right? And then we call it running on adrenaline, right? And then we crash. And then we have to then restart that stress in order to feel that adrenaline again, right? So I don't know if I would call it addiction. I think I would call it a space if we don't know how to manage and to tell people and to allow us that information to come in and then leave us rather than taking it in and holding it.
So does a crisis have to happen in which to realize stress? It could be an unconscious state that people can live in.
Yes. So your Tuesday probably looks different than my Tuesday, so some people, we talk about that, right? So we talk about some people's stress levels are much higher and they maintain them higherly than others. And some people are okay with that. So just let's be honest, some people are okay running in stress. That is the way that they do their work, right? And they may never ever recognize that it's not okay it's probably difficult on their body, but some people are okay with that, right? Because that for them is good. It's when you crash, some people crash, they decide, and I'm just gonna say as we get older, sometimes as we get older, we head in that 50s or 60s, we start to go, why am I doing this? Right? We hear about that, right? And that's because you have a moment to breathe and go, wait a minute, wait, what's happening here, right? And so we start to manage. And when we're younger, there's so much pressure on get a job, get a home, I'm just going from the very heterosexual sort of space, like get a kids, do this, get retirement, go on the cruise, on the boat cruise, or whatever that is, right? All those things. We have so much pressure from society and from our families that we run at a higher stress level. And then as we get older, we're like, yeah, it's not that much fun anymore. If we can learn to do that from a space of like, I want to own a home. I want to go on that. I want to do this. Then it's an intentional thing rather than a forced thing through stress. Right? There's intentionality. If you choose what you're doing without an outside voice telling you should, it's the shoulding that kills us, right? Everybody shoulds on us. And it's depending on how you navigate those shoulds is your stress level. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just so you know, there's coffee and tea on the corner over there. And there's some promotional items there that you can take. We have the Alex Monaghan wristband, which is the blue ones, and we have the green one says mental health. The bag, you can help yourself to one as well. Why don't we do this? I have a couple items. So, for someone who asked the next question, maybe I can encourage you to ask Jake questions. We'll give you a earbud, the Alex Monaghan support earbud, and we'll do a t-shirt for the next. So this is the Let's Talk About Mental Health t-shirt. It says Together We're Stronger. And then on the back of it, we give out, this is some extra stuff, but we give out these items as a part of the Alex Monaghan program that we do in November. So I had some extra ones, so I brought it along with me. Then on the back it says Alex Monaghan Mental Health Programs, the Carion Fenn Foundation, and the Pickering Mayor's Gala. The Pickering Mayor's Gala has been incredible, Mayor Ash, in helping us to run a mental health program. So I will take the next question from the next person, and she's like, I'm ready to go.
I want earbuds. I want buds.
Okay, what's your question?
Okay.
And I hope this question is for Jake.
No, it goes something like this.
Okay.
Did you guys do this today because of Bell Let's Talk yesterday?
No.
No?
Had nothing to do with, well, that's a good question too. But, that's a good point. Well, not specifically because of that, but this is a week that we have a conversation about mental health. So in a sense, yes, but not specifically because of Bell Let's Talk, but this is a week that we have conversations, or we should have conversations around mental health.
Okay.
So in that case, I guess, is that really somewhat?
Maybe, there's a lot of history with Bell Talk, but yes, it's.
We need to have more support conversations like this
Yeah.
around that time, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I'm not. Okay, I started a thing called Connect and Chat with Peaches.
Yeah?
And it's because like I said,
I like that.
and it's because like so many people are going
Peaches.
through. Yeah, so many people are
Are
going
you
through.
Peaches?
Yeah, my nickname. So many people are going through mental health.
Yes.
And they don't have the support, or they're too afraid
Yes.
to go out and seek the help.
Yes.
I look around, I'm the only black person here, pretty much.
Yeah.
And our community, we're suffering.
Yes.
Right? So it's just to help, like, if I'm going through this, if I can share what I went through to
Yes.
help you,
Yes.
you can share what you went through to help me,
Yes,
and we
yes.
all just connect and chat.
Yes, that's true. That's one of the things that we saw as well when we did the youth mental health chat. We saw a diverse amount of individuals, right? But some community are more open to speak and some
Yeah.
are not,
Yeah,
right?
so
So I agree with you in terms of, in my community, often some of us say things that we probably shouldn't say, but not realizing that we're actually hurting each
Yeah.
other, right?
exactly.
But it's good for all of us to have conversations. about mental health, around mental health.
Thank you so much.
This is yours.
Thank you.
I do have a question though.
Good job.
You were talking about the current work where, on the IT side, where the bosses expect that you be on the internet or you're on computer 24/7. Is that throughout the whole IT programs, or is that just in specific areas? Like I used to work at OPG,
Yeah.
and our buzz phrase was work-life balance.
Yes, that's a great one for most companies.
Now,
Unfortunately.
but that was in connection with
Yeah.
trying to get some of these guys to do less overtime.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'd see a
Oh, I see what
coordination.
you're saying, okay. Yeah, so what I'm seeing, I'm gonna just use IT because I just have a lot of clients who are in IT graphics, IT, that kind of thing. And it's such, I'm gonna say because it's such a bunch, there's so many people involved in it, that if you don't wanna do the work, there's someone coming in the door behind you, right? And so it's kind of like that place where it's a stressor, where it's like you have to decide, do you wanna keep that job, or or do you say to them, yeah, I'm not gonna do that, I'm not gonna be online. If I work from, 9 to 5, and tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock I'll look at my emails, right? And it's become quite a culture actually across the board, in all honesty. That work-life balance is, I think they're just taglines. There's very few companies that I've seen that really actually live it and breathe it. Because it's like they give you mental health days, and when you take one, they're like, oh, you're taking a day off. Like, and then they give you like sick days, like, are you sick? Like, then they want you to get a doctor's note. Like, well, you gave me sick days, I'm gonna use them. And I think there's that really crummy sort of place that we moved, I think, this generation into, is that it's just expected for them to be online, to answer emails, and even on vacation. Like, I have people like literally think that they have to answer emails on vacation, because if they don't, guess what? Well, when I get back, there'll be so many. Well, then you just answer them as you can when you get back, and you're like, no, but then I'll be in trouble. Like, so it's just that whole thing. And IT is really, I find at least, this is my experience, right? Is really, really cutthroat, and it's just, you better do it or you're gonna have no job.
But it goes back to the management of the employee.
Yes.
You have good managers, you got bad managers, that, like, I told my staff, if I don't send an email out after 4 o'clock on a Friday, I'm doing a good job.
Right.
But if the expectation is I send something out on the weekend, the expectation they think is to respond back to that email. So it goes back to what my behaviors are, and if I don't play with the computer or send the emails out after a certain time on a Friday, I don't expect to get anything until Monday morning.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that'd be perfect, unfortunately. And that's why, actually, I will counsel people, like, if you're starting a new job, you don't answer the email, because the first time you answer that email outside of office hours, now that's a new expectation, right? And then how do you break that expectation? So you're right, it goes up the chain, but again, if your manager above you expects it, there's this whole thing, right? People are worried these days about losing their job, because jobs aren't usually coming back. Once they're lost, they're gone. And guess what? Then every other manager gets all your people and all that kind of stuff, right?
But it goes back to the hash site, like,
Yeah.
you have to live and breathe about that work-life
100%.
balance.
Yeah, generations ago, right? People worked hard, they went home, and then they went home. And then they had their family or their whatever they did, and they had their weekends, and then they came back to work, and that's what it was. You didn't have any way to communicate with them. But this new era is, you're always in contact, unfortunately. So work-life balance is very hard.
Awesome.
I
Any
don't get it. I don't
other-
get a t-shirt.
You got a t-shirt.
What size did I give you? What size did I give you? Wait, I think I gave some, what size?
Extra large.
Oh, I didn't mean to give you an extra large. Can I get that back? Thank you. Can we switch?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Good, throw it.
Oh,
Ready?
you're hired.
Oh. I used to be good. Oh, don't tell my doctor that I tried to do that. Awesome, thank you so much. Any other question for Jake? And Jake is gonna stay here so we can ask some questions later on. Any other, let me just double check.
Any other question for Jake before we move on more?
Oh, yeah,
Go ahead.
see, my organization is Durham Lights Outreach. We do have some, like, queer related programs, you know?
Yeah.
So our website is if you wanna search it up on the internet, it's Durham Lights Outreach.
Durham what?
Durham Lights Outreach,
Durham
known
Lights
as
Outreach.
Oh, Alliance,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
That's my work, that's what I am on the board of directors for. So, and we also have Durham Lights Association Social Club, that's another organization that I work, I'm on the
Yeah.
board for.
Yeah.
Like, it's known as Club 77, that's what it's for. We're in Oshawa. It's, 717 Wilson Road, South
It's,
Oshawa.
it's nice to see you. I
Yeah.
actually have, oh, I was like, where did Jake go?
I'm ready to get some caffeine.
Actually,
It's my
you're actually one of my inspiration. I actually have her picture with an article that sits close to my desk,
Yeah,
just to remind me of why I do the work that I do. So there's certain things that I keep around in my office
Yeah.
to help motivate me
What's
in
her
terms
story?
of the work that I've done.
yeah.
You've been coming to our events for a very long time.
Yes, I
since
do,
the
yeah.
beginning.
It's good, yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
she's like many of us. We all face barriers within the community, right? So and I think it's important when we can have these conversations and talk and stuff like that. But yeah, her picture is a picture with an article about her is actually
Yep.
right on my desk.
What's her name?
Melanie Barnett.
Melanie Barnett, yeah. So yeah, now you know my secret. And then I've got a picture of Barack Obama, and then all these like I do different things to motivate myself. But the reason why I keep doing the work that we've been doing. Oh, I've got a picture with you. Of course I do. It's one of my favorite. Dr. Horseman, are you online?
You bet.
You bet. There he is. The one and only. The one and only. So our next, thank you, Jake. Jake will maintain here with me to answer any question in terms of mental health, and we can talk at the end as well. So our next speaker is Dr. Ian Horseman from the Brain Therapy Clinic, and he's going to be talking about stress on the brain in the area of injury, rehabilitation, and treatment. So Dr. Ian Horseman is a chiropractor of 25 years, but he looks like he's 12. He practiced with the College of Chiropractors of Ontario. He graduated with a doctorate of chiropractic in 1993 from the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College. He currently owns and operates a brain therapy clinic where they specialize in functional neurology, vestibular therapy, and postural correction, as well as muscular, skeletal, and nervous system deficiencies. I actually had to run to Peterborough this morning for treatment before I come here today, but he's an amazing doctor, an amazing speaker, and he's also a doctor who teaches other doctors to care for other patients. Dr. Ian Horseman. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can everybody see the screen okay? Like the PowerPoint?
Yes, can you go into presentation mode? It's that little
I
thing
think-
at the yeah. Okay. Yes, we can see your presentation now. We can see you as well. You're on a big screen.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I just wanted to make sure you can read, that you can see that I can't see if you can see the PowerPoint,
Yes,
that's all.
we can see it.
Okay, so, well, thanks for having me. Some of my speech is obviously now already being covered, and I think covered very, very well from the last two speakers. Thank you very much. So I'm going to just deviate and focus on some of the things that we do here that are a little different, and I'll try to focus on things that you can do at home, the home therapies that we often will give you, some things that maybe you haven't thought about before, and we'll just kind of have some fun here. And so I have a couple questions to start today. These are some true and false questions. So true or false, stress is the #1 health concern among high school students.
They said true. No?
Is everybody?
Most
I
people
don't know.
said true.
I'm asking you.
So most people in the room said true.
Okay.
Let me see who's online
It is.
saying.
It is true. Yeah.
Oh, it is
So
true.
that's the #1 concern. And on that note, you should understand that about 6 years ago, depression and anxiety overtook the common cold for the #1 reason why people see a medical doctor in North America. So, and also the most prescribed medication in the world now is Paxil, which is an antidepressant. Basically, it makes your brain feel better, and it helps you to deal with things like anxiety, depression, and stress, because stress is a big leader and contributor to creation of anxiety and depression. So I'll sort of throw a little bit of a different slant on that, but high school students definitely stress about exams, stress about each other, the other class. There's a lot more pressure on students today with social media. It's got a wonderful advantages, and it's got some horrible disadvantages to having so much connection with society. Okay, new question. True or false? Appetite changes are not a symptom of stress.
False. They said false.
Yeah. So absolutely.
Well, you guys are good.
It's false. You guys are doing great here. Appetite suppression is very common, and we often will often either eat more or eat way less, depending on how you handle your stress. And we will get into some details on good stress versus bad stress as well, and things that you can be doing. But again, I'm going to talk about things that haven't been talked about tonight. So some of the slides I might not go over fully. I might just breeze over them, since we've already covered. Obviously, when there's 3 speakers talking about the same subject, you're going to have some overlap. So the next question, true or false, depression and anxiety are linked to stress?
True. Yeah.
Well, I've already said true, yes. So very much so, anxiety is the precursor
Is it true?
mostly,
Yes.
and then it leads to depression. So anxiety and depression are often in the same brain, and we'll explain a little bit about how that happens. True or false, 25% of the people have trouble sleeping because of stress.
True. They all say true.
Maybe higher. Maybe higher.
It's,
No?
and you got it right, it's false, but you're correct, because it's 48% of the people have trouble sleeping due to stress. So it's almost half the people don't sleep well due to stress. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk to you about some things that you can do to help sleep better that you may never heard before. And that's kind of the point of me getting online here tonight, is sharing with you some things you've never heard before to hopefully help you on your journey to get over this, because that's what this talk, I believe, is about. True or false, money, work, and relationships are all causes of stress.
Yes.
True. They all said
Absolutely.
true. Is it true? Oh, you guys did it right.
You guys got them all right. So, and we were talking, and the previous speaker was talking about family, and that is an absolute, it's very difficult, because I always say you select your friends, and you were born into your whatever family, and it's hard to sometimes change those things, and you realize you can't. So you can just help and guide, but you have to learn how to change the things that you can and accept the things you can't. It's kind of one of those wonderful sayings that you hear of, but it's a great motto to live your life by. So what is stress? To me, stress is the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. So, and this is of course in the text of a bad stress. Stress is that we are talking about today to help you, what we can be doing about it. So there are 2 types of stresses. There's a good stress, which is a positive stress, which your brain needs. Your body needs to have stress. So if humans are in a stressless environment, we don't thrive very well. So you have to have some level of stress, but it's again about perception and how you deal with it. So eustress is the term we use for good stress. And it's pushing us to act, like you said, that putting gas in your gas tank so you don't run out of gas, or you taking on challenges or meet deadlines. Those are good stresses. And then there's negative stress, which is distress, and that creates dangers, seemingly insurmountable problems out of your control. Too much stress, ineffectively coped with over a period of time, becomes problematic. Okay, so on that note, there is a big difference between the male and female brain, and I don't have this on my slide, but I just want to talk about this a little bit. Anxiety and depression are dramatically higher in females than males. Okay, now I do believe that some of that is because of the stereotypical male not going for therapies and being the strong person in that kind of masculine role. But I think that there is a truth to a female brain, and the big difference is a female brain is much more connected. So a female brain has way more connections, and when you affect a female brain with stress, okay, it charges into the emotional centers, the limbic part of the brain. A male brain doesn't do that. So let's talk about this big difference, because it's kind of the elephant in the room when we get into this conversation, but it's very, very important to understand this. When you have an emotional charge to a stress, you remember it, and it's very easily recalled, okay? Male brains typically don't have that, but one of the things I always say is that when you have an emotional charge to a memory, so for the guys in the room, the males in the room, you might remember something like the first car you bought. I'm not into cars, but I don't know. You might remember the color of the car, the type of car, the engine. I know some of my male friends can tell me every single detail of the first car they bought. And that's because it had a real emotional impact for them. And, then males will also have the same conversation. And let's say we get into an argument or something, and then guys will tell you when we wake up the next day, for the most part, that conversation, that stress, if you will, is gone, because that stress didn't charge our emotional part of our brain. The female, however, it will charge that part of her brain, and that's why she'll recall it with much more detail. So women often have more troubles getting over things because they charge their brain on an emotional level. Okay, now I'm not trying to be sexist here. This is not. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's just that there is a reality to how we've developed evolved, however you want to look at it. And there's a reason why women take medications for anxiety and depression 8-to-1. But interestingly, just a little deviation from that, the male brain is the one they use to do the research on. So even though females take 8-to-1 medications for anxiety, depression, and I would say stress, they actually use a male brain for most of the research. The reason? A male brain is much simpler. We are much more compact, so when you knock out a system in a male brain, it's much more easy to identify. When you knock out a system in a female brain, it is amplified in multiple different systems, and it's really hard to figure it out. So just a little aside there, and there is some big differences between men and women. Men's brains also don't develop fully till they're about 21, 22, and some people are saying it's even later than that. But the male frontal lobe, the part of our brain that's control of emotions and intelligence and things like that, the male brain takes longer to develop. It's just how we've evolved. So there's also that. So when you're looking at younger kids, there's a big difference. All you have to do is go into a classroom and look at the boys and look at the girls and watch how some of them are able to sit and concentrate, and others are just, it's very difficult for them to do that because their control centers haven't developed yet. So I like to bring up the biological differences between a male and a female brain. and it's very well documented, and I think it's really important for us in this conversation. So, when I'm treating my patients, and I'm treating a lot of patients with concussions and brain injuries, by far the female brain is much harder to fix, and the majority of my patients that have a longer term, harder to fix brain, definitely in the female category by a long shot, not even close. So back to the PowerPoint here. This slide here just talks about the positive and negative stresses. So there's a eustress, which is positive, and the perceived distress, which is a negative. And the positive causes activation, causes you to do something about it, and it causes you to react. And by the way, that comes from the left side of your brain. The go, the gas pedal, if you will, of doing things, that's primarily dominant on your left brain. So we know when people have troubles doing that, stimulating the left side of your brain is a really great idea. And we'll talk a little bit about things you can do to stimulate different parts of your brain towards the end of this talk. On the other side, it creates a fight and flight response, which is your body's danger. So, for instance, if a bear is coming towards me, I would like to have a good, strong fight and flight response so that I can actually react favorably so that I don't perish, okay? And on it goes, the development of growth and new experiences and feelings of satisfaction. For good stress, again, very important to have that good, healthy stress. And then on the flip side, chronic stress creates physical symptoms, psychological issues, and decreased coping skills. So we really want some awesome ideas from the last two speakers on things you can do to empower yourself to sort of flip your perception of how things are affecting you. My speech, the rest of the talk, is going to be things you can actually physically do that you might not have heard about that might actually help you as well. So these are not to replace what you've heard, it's just simply to enhance, okay? So these are some of the causes of negative stress, and I think you've covered that pretty well in the seminar so far. There's, again, the emotional symptoms of stress, frustration, difficulties relaxing, avoiding others, changing your eating habits, low self-esteem, feeling overwhelmed, all of those things, again, I think are being covered beautifully. Non-physical threats can create moderate flight and fright response. So again, this is also very much in the female brain. Now, just remember, how many here, and I can't see you, so probably you can put your hand up or you guys can let me know, but how many people here, tomorrow you're going to be having an argument or you're going to be confronting somebody, and how many here in this room will start to have that conversation in your brain, and you start to talk about what you're going to say to that person tomorrow in this conversation, perhaps a family member, something like that. So what I'm saying is that you'll say things like, well, when I see that person, I'm going to say this, and then they're going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and then they're going to say this, and you have this argument in your brain, and you might have that argument in your brain 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different times, and you create almost like a negative loop. The thing about the brain is, it doesn't know the difference between actual confrontation and that perception that you've created in your brain. So simply by thinking about confrontation and thinking about the stress that's involved and thinking about being uncomfortable gives you the same exact physiological response. And unfortunately, females tend to do this a lot more than males. They just do. It's just the way that they're wired. How many in this room here find themselves doing that on a fairly regular basis?
No? Okay, I'd say about 15% of the room.
Yeah. So it's not everyone,
good
but
thing or a bad thing? I had some too.
it's one of those things that I point out because when we're looking at non-physical threats, so you're actually creating it in your mind, but the physiological response is identical, okay? So the physical symptoms of stress are low energy, headaches, upset stomach, chest pain, rapid heart rate, insomnia, and nervousness and shaking. Now, why that happens is quite simple. If you put yourself in a period of stress or negative stress, which is the fright and flight, what do you think you're going to do in your body if you feel like there's a bear coming at you? Okay? Do you think your body's going to and brain is going to digest your food? Or do you think it's going to shunt all of the blood to your muscles to get ready to run away? Of course, that's what it's going to do. As far as the chest pain and rapid heart rate, it's going to increase your blood pressure. It's going to increase your heart rate. It's going to dilate your pupils. It's going to get you ready to run away or to deal with that stress. Is it going to make it easy to sleep if you're in that state? Of course not. And if you stay in the state for too long, it's called hypersympathetic tonia. So you basically turn your brain and your body into a machine that's constantly ready for an attack. And the problem is that if I'm in that state, I can't rest, I can't digest, and I can't repair. So think of all those issues that people are having, the physical problems, the digestive upsets, and the emotional problems because they're not able to deal with life because they put themselves in this constant stress. So a lot of the coping mechanisms that you've heard tonight are really exciting and wonderful because they can kind of flip your brain and break you out of that cycle where you've created this physiological attack, if you will, where your body's set for any sort of danger, and that's not where you want to be. Our bodies normally should be in a parasympathetic or a restful state, digesting our food and repairing. We shouldn't be in a state of high alert only when it's necessary. So, eustress is good because it pushes you to do something, but you don't want to be there all the time. Okay, and that's what a lot of the previous speakers talked about.
You said hypersympathetic. What was the rest of that?
Oh, it's a term that we use. It's called, if you look at it, it's called dysautonomia. Dysautonomia, so DYS, autonomia. Autonomia, autonomics, the things that you do in your body that are automatic. You don't think about I don't sit there and think about my heart rate. I don't think about my blood pressure. I don't think about digesting my food. I don't think about, regulation of my body temperature. Those are all things that are automatic. And we have two systems in our body. We have a sympathetic, which is firing things up, okay? And we have a parasympathetic, which brings it down. And what we want to do is create our bodies in a more restful state. And when you get this charge and you're always in this fright and flight, you're always in attack mode, you end up bringing your body into a hypersympathetic tone where everything is ready for a bear attack. Think of it that way. That make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay? So when you start to put that person in this constant state of stress and you're not healing, do you think you might have more aches and pains in your body? Do you think you might not be able to sleep at night? You can't digest your food. And we're going to talk about digestion and how critical that is for brain health in a couple minutes. So this is the fright and flight. Obviously, there's different ways of it. Here's this quick diagram. Somebody's attacking the bear and somebody's running away from the bear. So, I guess you're attacking it if you're looking at it as food, but if you become the food, you better get out of there pretty quick. People that don't have a proper response don't survive and they don't breathe. That's the whole basis of evolution. Cognitive symptoms of stress. So thinking about stress, constantly worrying, racing thoughts, poor judgment, inability to focus. So if you're in that state and you're producing lots of cortisol, your brain cannot function the way it's designed. It just does not do its job. Behavioral problems, procrastinations, eating too much or too little, usage of drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, sugar, different behaviors that just give your brain a hit of dopamine or a hit of something that makes you feel better, okay? And these things are critical. By the way, a lot of people that are stressed out, and be aware of this one, they often will go to pops. They'll drink a lot of Diet Coke or pop. and the reason is, first off, the sugar. But the other thing about pop that is wonderful for the brain and gives you an instant hit and helps you to kind of, it's almost like something that we don't talk about, but people that drink a lot of pop, they rip the calcium out of their bone. So because pop is so acidic, and the carbonation, it rips the calcium out of your bone, and that calcium goes and feeds your brain, and you feel really good. So be very careful, because that's one thing that I don't hear people talk about a lot, is people that drink too much pop. And if you're drinking more than 1 can a week or 2 cans a week, you probably need to start cutting back. And some people, I was listening to a guy on the radio, he told me that he would drink 3 liters of Diet Coke a day. So that is an addiction by any ways. It's just not the kind that we don't talk about it in society. So common stressors, I think you all understand what stressors are, but there's 2 of the biggest in life. Death is number 1, for obvious reasons. When somebody passes away, it's the biggest stress you can have. Number 2, anybody want to guess what the second biggest stressor is in the adult life is?
Who wanna guess? I'll give it with my last
Getting
t-shirt.
married.
Babies.
Baby?
Getting married. Buying a
Getting
house.
married?
Money.
You can't say you're a
Oh, sorry.
psychotherapist.
Money.
Money. What's the answer?
Moving.
Moving.
Yeah. When you move your house, when you move from one area to another area, that's one of the most stressful things to humans. These are just research studies. I just thought I'd kind of throw that out, but it's kind of a fun thing. So that just something to kind of keep in mind. This is a and I can provide these PowerPoints to anybody who wants it. This is a symptom of chronic stress. So these are the different things that happen: the physical, the cognitive, the behavioral, and emotional. And I think that if you read this slide here, it kind of makes sense. And I think we've covered this pretty well, so we're going to move on. So I'm going to talk to you now about, with the few minutes I have left, I'm going to talk to you about a few things that we can be doing. So one of the things that I want you to know is that the first thing we do in our clinic is we worry about your balance. Balance is the key for brain. Balance is the pillar that your brain needs to have. So our physical body and our physical part of our brain, the cerebellum, is the motor that drives the cognition. It's the motor that kind of keeps everything in check. And you need to have good balance for that to work. So the very first thing I do with everybody who walks in the door that has any mental issue at all, concussion, anxiety, depression, PTSD, you name it, I look at their balance first. If the person's balance is off, then typically they don't do very well. So we fix that first. And one of the ways we do it is we do body awareness. So I want to make sure that your brain knows where your feet are relative to the ground. So one of the things that you can do to help with balance, and anybody can do this, go out and buy yourself some essential oils, or you can use muscle creams. Okay, you don't spend a lot of money on this stuff. I use peppermint. I love peppermint oil. Just make sure that you cut it with something. You can't put essential oils directly on your skin. You have to put it with grapeseed oil or cut it with something. And you rub it on the top and bottom of both feet. And what that does, the coolness of the oils will send a signal to your brain and tell your brain where you are, and it'll help your body remap itself. You can also rub it on the back of your hands, and that tells your brain where your hands are at. So if I tell my brain where my hands or feet are at, it'll tell the body where the entire body is, because from the hand it has to go to the elbow, it has to go to the shoulder, it has to go to the neck, and it has to go to the brain, from the feet to the knees to the hips to the spine to the brain. So you can actually reprogram the brain and understand that that's a great way of getting somebody to feel better simply by grounding them. That's the next thing you should talk about. I don't have it on the slide, is grounding. If any of you don't know about grounding, we are electrically charged beings. And if you're taking medications at all, you need to be grounding. And what grounding is, take your socks and shoes off and walk around, bare feet, best outside. Kind of hard to do right now, but you get the idea. Grounding is great. They actually have grounding sheets now. You can put them on your beds. But you don't have to go to big expense. You can put a copper wire in the ground of your electrical outlet and put some oil on your feet and just sit on it 20 minutes a day. I've had 27 patients that have done this, and their blood pressures have come down. And their heart has gotten better. Their heart rate has come down, and they feel better because they're dumping the toxic chemicals and the extra charge that normally we would have gotten rid of before. But of course, when you're wearing shoes with rubber soles, you don't get rid of it anymore. So just be aware of grounding. There are parts in our brain, which is number 2, that we want to stimulate. We primarily look at the frontal lobe and we look at the cerebellum. These are parts of your brain that you use to stimulate, and I call this the school teacher. So you want to do things to help get the school teacher back in the classroom. And the school teacher keeps everybody in the brain behaving properly, right? So what you do is you can do things like gait exercises. You can do exaggerated gait exercises that really help. And you can do things like drawing. You can do things that create complex motions in both your hands and feet, okay? In our clinic, we also really work on the upper 6 ribs because we want to get people breathing better, because there's tons of new research showing that if you keep the upper 6 ribs moving up here, then it keeps your anxiety and your stress levels down. We also are big fans of stimulating the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve controls your autonomic system. It's your key player for your gut function and your digestion and all sorts of wonderful things. And one of the things you can do at home, simply, we have some stimulation tools that we use in our clinic, like the Pulsetto and ear clip, but you can also use things like gargling. What I do is I tell people, go in the shower, put the water in your mouth and gargle really, really loudly for 2 to 3 minutes. And when you start getting watering in your eyes, you have gotten into the vagus nerve. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, it starts to calm down your brain, and it will get rid of a lot of your anxiety simply by doing breathing techniques and gargling. Really simple stuff. We do highlights and visual rehabilitation. We have a neurofeedback machine, which I'll show you in a second. We do the dysautonomia treatments, which I talked about, and nutritional support. Now, I want to talk about this to finish up. Your gut produces the neurotransmitters that your brain uses to function properly. 80% of all of the brain chemistry is produced in your gut. If you are stressed out and you are not digesting your food and you're not getting the nutrients from your food, you will not be producing enough neurotransmitters, and it will make you sick. It'll get you anxious, depressed, and it'll create stress. So you need to do things that help your digestion. So eating foods that are better for you, not processed, of course. We've talked about those things. But also you can take digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes are wonderful because they help to break down the food for you and allow you to digest it, and you'll produce more. Think about it, Paxil and antidepressant medications simply block the reuptake of these neurotransmitters, and that makes you feel better. But I say let's also turn the gut on so you produce more, and then you feel better from that. And that's a much healthier way of doing it because there's a lot of side effects. So just some real quick slides here. Vestibular rehab, lots of different things that we do for balance. Smell therapy, you can also put essential oils in both nostrils. That will help to fire your frontal lobe up. The frontal lobe then controls your brain and will get your stress levels down simply by putting a little bit of oil in both nostrils each day. And it is amazing the difference it makes for people, okay? And these are done with, the other things that the other speakers have talked about. Gargling, as talked about, gargle aggressively for 2 to 3 minutes till your eyes water. We love using colors in our clinic. There's a lot of research to putting glasses. Last time I came and talked to this group, there was a bunch of kids there, and we had a ball putting the different colors on, showing them how their balance got better, how they could see better, all sorts of wonderful things. So we love using colors on your glasses to make a big difference for your brain. We look at your eye movements. This machine here measures your eye movements, and we make sure that your eyes are moving together as a team. That's critical for brain health. We have a neural feedback machine that tells your brain how to produce the right brain waves to help you get over anxiety, over depression, help you with your stress. We have this machine that measures your autonomics, and we can tell what kind of a patient you are and how we need to fix that. So these things are done in the clinic, but I wanted to show you a few of the things that we do. And of course, gut nutrition, as we talked about, critical, okay? Coping mechanisms you guys have covered beautifully, so I'm gonna stop there and answer any questions you may have, and hopefully that made some sense.
Thank you, Dr. Horst. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Horst?
I have one, but it's not like what he said. It's what he said we could get the PowerPoint.
The
Yes.
PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get Carion the PowerPoint when she comes to see me next time, and I'll make sure that you get copies of it. We'll make it, actually, I've got an IT guide, and so what I'll probably do is I'll put it on in a format probably on our website, and you'll be able to go online and download it, and that'll probably be the easiest way to access it.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay.
That'll be good. He's very knowledgeable, eh?
Yeah.
I drive, how far is Peter? I drive an hour and 15 minutes there and an hour and 15 minutes
Wow.
back. Yeah, I was, especially this morning, I was struggling, I couldn't focus or think. I've been in various car accidents, but, Dr. Horstman is my main doctor who's been treating me, but like, I couldn't like focus, like even process or anything like that, it's my brain injury. But he's very, very good at what he does. He's one of the best. I don't know what I would have done without him. But Melanie, other questions,
Yes.
Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, for the brain, because my brain has like autism and
Can you hear her, Dr. Wilson?
depression and
Yep.
anxieties. So when you say about the meditation, I actually use another fabric, that meditation to calm down. I also listen to the sound, sounds on YouTube, like car sounds, that's also calms me down.
Oh, yeah?
And then another thing is I look at the car pictures on my Instagram. A few, especially I've sat in exotic sports cars like Clarence Ferraris, Rolls Royces, and everything. So that's what I do. I visual, like
Yeah.
the best visual you got, the best visual positivity. That's what I did. So I've sat in so many exotic cars in my life, like, pretty much. It's pretty neat.
No.
So that's what I do to calm anxiety. Is look at all the good pictures and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. She's making a comment in regards to what you were talking about and stuff that she's done to help her.
Oh yeah, and absolutely, visualization
Yeah.
is very powerful.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you can do it, and there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody's program should be individual. Everybody should find what works for them. But there are some things that really can make a difference, there's just so many different ways we can go. But there's only a half an hour talk, so you can. And I did rush some of it, but the idea is that just some things that you can start to think about that you never thought, geez, my gut function is really that critical to my brain health. Yeah, it is, 100% is. So if you're a therapist and you're giving people treatments and cognitive therapies and stuff, you need to also understand there's this whole side of the physical brain that needs some support too, and then you'll find your cognitive work, it works so much better.
So I've got it.
I had one question.
Sure.
I just wanted to know if there's a recommended digestive enzyme. Like what
Yes,
would we?
yes, there is.
Okay.
So great, wonderful question. It depends on two things. The first thing is, what kind of foods do you normally eat? So there's two types of digestive enzymes, okay? The first one is a pancreas-based one, and that is people that eat breads, pastas, complex carbohydrates, fruits, sugars, vegetarians. They should get a pancreatic-based enzyme because that's what they're doing. The other one is a liver-based digestive enzyme, and that's for people that eat a lot of meats, cheeses, milks, creams, butters, a lot of meat, like a meatitarian. They should probably go with a liver-based enzyme. There are people who say that you should eat the enzyme that if you eat both, let's say you're one of these people who eats a pretty balanced diet, eat a lot of everything, then you might want to take the enzyme that has the things that you have the most problems digesting. So for instance, after I eat a steak, or after I eat ice cream, or after I eat whatever, I get an upset stomach, flatulence, whatever. So you might want to kind of gear towards whatever the digestive enzyme that makes sense. So when you go to the health food store, ask them for, which one has a digestive enzyme for the liver, which is fats and meats, or the pancreas-based one, which is grains and things along that nature, fruits and cereals, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Horstman. Anybody have any other question? I've got a gift card, a EB Games gift card. Nobody goes to EB Games. No, you're not getting it, you're disqualified. Oh, was that mean? My kids are always disqualified. It's not fair, so yeah, so I automatically disqualify them. So yeah, so one of them were like,
Not my real mom.
yeah, I'm not an option.
Did you hear
Okay.
that?
Huh?
Did you hear that?
What did you say?
You're not the real mom.
You should have told me that 27 years ago. How much money I would have saved? Could have bought a sports car. And Melanie, you and I could go cruising around. Oh my goodness. Question for Dr. Horstman. I'll give away the next person who'll get this gift card.
Right? Oh, you want me to give you a question?
Oh wait, you know what? We did that. Why don't we do that? Okay. Okay, so Dr. Horstman is gonna, we did that in November. So we had the experts give the question and then someone answer. And if you answer, you get a prize. Good, thank you. Great teamwork. So go ahead, Dr. Horstman, with your question.
All right, what side of the brain has the gas pedal?
The left.
Ooh.
But he didn't put his hand up.
I did. He did the left, but his hand went up. No, I don't think so.
I was looking at everyone. His hand did go up. I don't know if that's the right answer or not. Is that correct, Dr. Horstman?
That is correct, yes.
Oh, that is correct. Okay. Here you
See,
go.
I'm left-handed, right?
Oh, you're left-handed too? Are you
I
left-handed?
think with the right side of the brain, though.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah. It's the opposite.
I can't go to
Why
study.
don't you give it to somebody who has kids? Go give them.
Someone who has. Does everybody have kids? Your kids are younger? 18. Okay, I can see that.
That'd be perfect.
I have a nephew. He wants it, but they don't.
No.
I have a nephew.
He's gonna
I have
hand
a
it to
nephew.
somebody for you.
Okay, another question and then the next person gets it.
Okay, good.
Another question, Dr. Horstman?
All right, what is the ratio of females to male taking antidepressant medications, anti-anxiety medications?
You know again?
I do, it's 8 to 1.
Yep.
Yeah. 8 to
That's
1.
correct, it's 8 to 1.
Wow.
So genius, how do I figure out who to give it to? How do
Give
you...
it to the lady in the pink, purple.
Purple? Who's the lady in purple?
Right there.
Where?
You're purple, aren't you? Is that purple?
Black.
Over there.
Where?
Right there.
Where? Which lady?
Over there, purple.
I can't.
Which lady?
And
Lady
the
right
pink,
there, with the pink, that's
the
pink,
rosy
right?
color.
Oh,
Color
Whatever that is.
Whatever the color that is.
This one.
He's very smart. Not color, can't see color, but he's very smart. There you go. Thank you. That was nice. See, I see purple that's our color. I see purple everywhere we go.
That was very good. So I have one more T-shirt. Dr. Horseman, throw out one more question. You know what? I miss
Holy moly, this is so much
this
pressure.
November.
Let me just look here.
What was that?
Stress. You're stressing him out.
Stressing him out.
I'm stressing about
Stressing
Hey,
me
Jake!
out making me come up with all that. Okay, there's two types of stresses, and there's a good one and a bad one. What's the technical term for good stress?
Oh, what's the,
Eustress.
what is
That's
it?
it.
Eustress.
Eustress.
Eustress?
Eustress.
Oh, okay. Is that correct, Dr. Horseman?
That is correct. It is eustress.
Oh, awesome! Now you have matching
Is
shirts.
it,
Oh, he got one before.
no, yeah.
You need a shirt now.
Oh, you're giving away the shirt?
Yeah, I'm giving away the shirt.
Oh, they're being generous. Okay, so who do I just? You can't put that on me. So who do I get? Who do I give the shirt to?
The lady in pink.
Okay, you can't pick the lady in pink again. Maybe it's because you're the only one you can see. Okay, who am I giving the shirt to?
You have to ask just one more question. Just
Okay,
ask
okay,
one more
Dr. Horseman, I'm sorry, forgive me.
Answer.
One more question, and then they're gonna determine who gets the shirt. Go ahead, Dr. Horseman.
The last one.
Oh,
Well, I
wait.
got another. You need another question?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Wanda, I wasn't paying attention. Is Wanda still there? What was that before? I couldn't see my phone.
All right. I'm just reading over some of what I talked about.
My other phone
So,
went down.
okay. Okay, I mentioned common stressors, and I said what are the two most common stressors in the proper order, according to the research that they did recently.
Oh. Who knows it? Melanie, you know it?
Moving, getting married, relationships, that's why I said.
Did you hear that, Dr. Horseman?
Death. Like
Death is number one,
Stop
moving is
loss.
number two. So
Are you asking for
if
three or
anybody
just
did
asking
anyway,
for one?
Two.
death is number one, moving is number two.
Yep.
Moving is number 2, so she got it?
Yeah, she got it.
Yay!
Yay!
Good job. Okay. So, any more questions for Dr. Horseman? If someone have a question online, you can just unmute yourself and ask. I can't see that cell phone at the moment, so I apologize if I miss you. Any more questions for Dr. Horseman? Dr. Horseman, any last tips before you go? You've been very helpful and very knowledgeable, and I appreciate the information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The last tip I'm going to tell you, I forgot to mention
Hold on,
it.
there's something, hold on. Are you familiar with treating those who is treatment resistant? Did you see that, Dr. Horseman?
Treatment resistant so treatment resistance usually means that the person has a condition called dysautonomia, and we're very good at that. And it's figuring out why they don't respond to the traditional therapies. It's because their physiological makeup doesn't allow them to. So yes, we do that in our clinic, but it takes specialized treatment and testing equipment to do it properly.
Okay. Any other question for Dr. Horseman before he goes? And then I'm going to ask you for a last message, Dr. Horseman.
Yep. Okay, so my last parting thought is for sleep, things to help you get better sleep, because no matter what brain problem you have, sleep is usually involved in a negative way. So one of the things we've been using is something called binaural beats. If you go on YouTube or if you go on Spotify or any of the music programs, Apple, you can look up something called binaural beats. And what it is it's music with a wave embedded in it. You can't really hear the wave, but that wave that is in the music will actually stimulate your brain and get it ready for sleep. So I want everybody to look up theta wave binaural beats. Theta wave binaural beats. Pick a music that you like. Pick something that's relaxing. Obviously, you don't want to have a thrashing metal sound before you go to bed at night, but something, they have even things with waves, crashing waves and seagulls, but there's a theta wave, which is a frequency of 8 to 12 hertz. So it's how many cycles per second, and when you expose the brain to that sound, it will actually get your brain better and help you go to sleep and stay asleep better. So I would highly recommend trying binaural beats for those people who have trouble sleeping at night, or sleep okay but they don't wake up feeling refreshed. It's the same thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Horstman, for your presentation, for answering our question, and for being here. Thank you to our speakers, Jake Farr, Tanis Russell. Thank you to those who are online as well as in person. This was her first time doing the Alex Monaghan Mental Health Forum in the city of Pickering. Thank you to our partner, the Pickering Public Library, for taking on this initiative with us and working together, and we look forward to expanding the program in the city of Pickering. I want to take a moment to thank Mayor Kevin Ash and his wife Karen O'Brien for taking on this journey with us and for working together to help support the public. We couldn't have done this without them. We want to thank our team for their hard work behind the scenes and putting things together. Thank you guys for being here. We need to have more of this conversation as we move forward with our community and supporting each other. I want to say happy birthday again to my good friend Craig. That's right there. He just had his 30th birthday today and spent it with us. Happy birthday. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. This is a great start, and we have lots of more conversation to have. And we look forward to helping to do what we can in a collaborative approach as we move forward. There are some items there that you can take. There's wristbands, there's bags. Minister Bethan Falvey, also Peter Bethan Falvey, the Minister of Finance. There's some swags that are there for you as well. You can take it as well. That's here on the table here. Take one of the bags, some of the items over there. You can take on our website, www.carionfenn.org. You will also find information about the speakers that spoke today, their website address and how to reach them, so you can ask them any questions or book any appointment or check out their services. Thank you, everyone. Have yourself a safe night, and God bless you all. www.carion, F as in fabulous, ENN.org.